What's up everybody? A new book review again here. This time I read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Sitting here at my balcony and it's maybe noisy, maybe some dogs barking, maybe some car sounds, but I guess because I just read this book I just don't give a fuck. So if that bothers you, then maybe you need to click away from the video, but if it doesn't, then listen to what I have to say, because I'll summarize this book and review it, give you my thoughts as usual in these videos. So whether the book is worth buying, reading totally, and what I learned from it, my biggest takeaways. So first of all, not a super long read, 200 or so pages. So answering that question that I just asked is, I think it's totally worth buying and reading. It's not super long. There's of course the audiobook version as well. I listened to that earlier in Audible at some point many years ago. Now I picked up the actual book. And I'm pretty sure you have probably heard of it. It's very popular. I know that this is even translated, I think, into my language, which is Finnish. That's usually a sign that something is super like popular. So yeah, I like this book. And the main thing, if you were thinking about like just the main idea, the main question the book is answering is like, I guess, like how to live a better life, more meaningful life, and how to like give a fuck about the right things in life. Because I think the first thing that stuck with me, he was talking about like you have only a certain amount of fucks to give, so to speak. So if you're going to care about everything from people's opinions and what they're going to think about you, and give a fuck about somebody honking the horn behind you in traffic or something, like you just don't have time to give a fuck about that kind of stuff, because then by definition the more you give a fuck about things that don't really matter, the less time you have to give a fuck about things that do matter, like maybe your relationship, maybe your dog, or maybe you haven't remembered to call your mom or dad, or like if your mind gets absorbed with the wrong things, then you actually forget that that's not what you should give a fuck about. The things that you should actually care about are things like your family, maybe your financial situation, maybe your health, the gym, your dog, all of these things that actually truly matter to you. And you're not gonna give a fuck about like whether someone thinks your red shoes look stupid or something like that. Like just put the red shoes on and go out for a walk and don't give a shit, like whatever. So then there was the first chapter says don't try. I think that was pretty interesting, and I think that actually hit the hardest. I think I don't know, I have some allergy, by the way. My voice sounds weird, but it's because there's some allergies that I have here. That resonated the most, I think, at the moment with me, like the don't try. I think there's a huge problem with being too much of a try hard. Like if you try too hard with anything, I think it doesn't really work. Think about going on the sales call, for example, and you really want to make the sale. You're just really attached to making the sale. That's the first thing you need to learn in sales, is like be detached from the outcome. You cannot make making the sale so important that it's more important for you to make the sale than for the customer to solve their problem. You have everything flipped the wrong way. Or if you're attracted to a woman, or if you're a woman watching this and you're attracted to a man, if you get so attached to the outcome that you really want to date this person, then that actually it's going to screw everything up. There was the example of people like Charles Bukowski, who is of course the really famous writer, I think was. I'm not so sure if he's alive anymore, but I think I read one of his books or something. But anyways, he became a famous author not by trying. He was actually a drunk alcoholic womanizer, but somehow he just kind of stumbled into it. So that kind of just shows you that like sometimes like even not trying that hard can get you huge results, and sometimes if you try super hard, you're not even still going to get the result. So the amount of trying doesn't really seem to be such a big aspect in success. There's probably many examples of those people who just like they just were in the right place at the right time. They didn't even like really try that hard to become some famous actor or famous author or famous musician or something. Maybe there's also the people who really try hard and they make it, but kind of the point is that it's in Finnish we also call this like in ice hockey, if you squeeze the stick, it's not gonna make you play any better. If you're squeezing the stick in ice hockey, you're not going to play any better. So like this, I'm gonna just try harder energy is just going to ruin everything. So you need to go kind of into this flow kind of state. Like if we're talking about sports now, I know that's in any sport. If I play paddle and I'm like, I just cannot lose this game, and I just like start like forcing it never happens. You have to go and kind of have this flow state where you don't really care. You don't have a fear of failing. So that's one thing. And then happiness is a problem was the second chapter. Just talking briefly about that. So I think that was interesting. Like if you to attach to kind of the outcome, or if happiness becomes this thing that you just have to have, that also is a problem. You don't really need to be 100% of the time happy. I forgot what else he was talking about in that chapter. But yeah, like emotions are overrated. Like, what happened? Zooming out. Emotions are overrated. Like, you shouldn't really base all of your actions like based on like whether it's gonna make you happy or how you're feeling, etc. But then the next main thing I think was in chapter 4, the value of suffering. I think that was some new takeaway which I kind of already knew, but it was about like suffering. So in life you're not gonna really avoid suffering. It is a mistake to try to avoid suffering. Like if you just try to live your whole life in this pleasant state, not have any suffering, not have any challenges, that's not how life works. It's more about choosing the right suffering. So think about it. If I go to the gym, I'm going to suffer through a little bit of pain, sweating, lift heavy weights, it's gonna feel uncomfortable. But then if I don't go to the gym, I'm also going to suffer. I'm gonna have maybe gain extra weight, I'm gonna have knee pain, I'm going to have all kinds of health problems, lose my muscle, age faster. That is also suffering. I can come up with a lot of maybe these health examples, but also in anything. If you want to build a successful financial life, if you want to build a business, for example, it's gonna be a lot of hours of work, suffering, long days, tiring, exhausted, maybe a little bit anxious or unsure of like if this is even working, is this gonna ever work? Like you don't even know the future. Like if I'm gonna put all of this effort in, is it ever going to even matter? Is it ever going to even succeed? So that is suffering. But then it's also suffering that you just go to a job that you hate, and you work from 9 to 5, and those hours you're not really passionate about what you do, or you work for a boss that really is not pleasant to work for. That's also suffering. It's like choose your suffering. Either way you're going to suffer. So that makes it pretty easy to choose the suffering that leads to like a greater outcome that actually has more meaning for you. So that's one takeaway. Then so that makes you remember, like if you are building a business, or if you are building that fit body, or if you're failing in dating and you're not getting any dates or something, like that's suffering. But it's also suffering to decide to not date. Like it's both are suffering. So just keep that in mind, that if you're suffering, it's alright, because you're suffering for the right cause. You didn't give up, you're working on something meaningful, something that's a goal of yours. So then Yeah, there's the importance of saying no. Rejection makes your life better. Boundaries, how to build trust, freedom through commitment. Yeah, that one is pretty interesting. He talked about traveling 5 years, all the different countries. He had a lot of freedom to choose. He dated a lot of different women. All these options and freedom, and then he realized that this isn't actually the answer to a happy life. Like, if you keep your options open, it actually makes you more anxious and like less happy, because you're like for example, let's use me as an example. I'm living in Spain now, but I could live basically anywhere I want. So if I don't just decide that I'm gonna just live in Spain, then I'm gonna have a lot of like this fear of missing out. Like, oh, but what if I lived in Italy? Would the views be more beautiful? Or what if I lived in France? Would the food be better in there? Oh, but what if I lived in this country or that country, or here? It's maybe this is better there. Like, it's gonna drive you crazy. It kind of works the same in everything. Like, if you don't choose one business, you're gonna always have this, I forgot what the word is, this syndrome where you think, oh, but well, I'm doing this business, but that business looks really good. Like, I see a lot of people make a lot of money in that business. Oh, but that seems easy, or that's passive income, that's this and that, and you start getting distracted. And same with dating, same with women or men, or if you're again man or woman watching this, like dating multiple people. Yeah, you have options, you have freedom, but actually committing to one person can be the best thing, because then it becomes this more peaceful life where you don't have to think about all the time like what the options are and what's the best thing. Like, even if you choose to live in a country that is not the best, or you choose to live in the city or be with a person or start one business, and maybe you feel that sometimes like there is better business opportunities or something, but because you committed to one thing, it just gives you this clarity and this peace that you can just focus on that. So that was one thing. And then in the end, very important chapter was the last one about death. The name of the chapter is "And Then You Die." So this is something that people really don't like to think about, and they forget that they're going to die. They try to remove that from their head, and it's all comes from really from your ego. And that kind of book, that book is a lot about like removing the ego and entitlement, which is causing a lot of these problems. But a lot of us forget that we die in the end, and life is not meaningless because of death. It actually becomes more meaningful because of death, because you realize that things are not forever or infinite, and you realize that everything is going to end anyway. So you start thinking like what kind of contribution you want to make here, what kind of legacy you want to have, and you realize that things don't really matter that much, because we all going to pass. We are all going to die anyways. Like, if someone ridicules you, or someone this and that, whatever, rejects you, or laughs at you, whatever happens, it doesn't matter. You die, they die, everybody around you die. Everybody you met today is going to die, just like you. So it's a short life. It's everybody's going to die eventually, and the inevitability of death, that you cannot change, the fact you cannot do anything about it. Even though there are guys like Brian Johnson now who are trying to live forever, and if it's not that kind of obsession about living forever, then it's the kind of obsession where you try to make yourself immortal or remembered. You want to have a building like Donald Trump has, that building that has his name there, or you want to have a statue about you or something. You want to become so famous or well known that you live on, but in reality you won't. And there was quotations or takeaways from the book The Denial of Death, which I haven't read yet, but it seemed interesting, about the author who figured out that he had also done that. And I don't know if it was the author or he was using some other person as an example, but a lot of people live their whole life trying to create this kind of eternal legacy or eternal being remembered, but then they realize on their deathbed that it was for nothing, that they're still going to die, just like everyone else. We are all mortal. So that just makes also life more simple, more meaningful, and it makes it a lot easier to not give a fuck, because you know you're going to die anyways. So highly recommend picking up this book. Hopefully this review and summary was helpful, and thanks so much for watching. Put thumbs up if this helps, and subscribe for more videos like this. Catch you guys soon.